let's get right to it. Because for those of you who follow me on Facebook and Twitter and Instagram, I told y'all that we were going to have a conversation tonight about Damon Dash. Of course, you know he's been in the news recently. He's been giving interviews promoting a movie that he's got coming up. And I think the most interesting of his interviews was on The Breakfast Club. Charlamagne, Envy, Angela Yee. And the interview, to say the least, was it was kind of all over the place. You know, he took issue with those guys asking him questions about Jay-Z and that previous relationship. He was kind of upset about that. He went off on several tangents and dropped such gems as saving money is for suckers, a real man doesn't want a boss, jobs are for lazy people, just all kinds of, just some serious shake your head moments. And Damon Dash has always kind of set himself up, in terms of his image, as a successful businessman who owns these several businesses, and he's making lots of money, and don't pay attention to what that's saying over there about my money and that I owe them, and that's just, conveniently he says stuff like, anybody who looks at another man's pockets and such and such and such and such, you're not a real man. Well, yeah, that's a convenient attitude to have when there's so many questions about your business dealings. Questions about what you say you represent, how you represent yourself, and your success in these various areas. So, we're going to have a talk about it tonight. And we're going to talk to someone who knows very well about Damon Dash's business acumen, because he's worked with the guy. And you all know this person very, very well. He just happens to be my co-host, my home skillet, K-Dub. So y'all give me a second. Let me bring K-Dub on the line here. K-Dub, what's good, man?
Yo.
Say, man, first of all, I hope you feel better, man. I know you're under the weather. It's been a crazy few days for you, man.
It's a little bump in the road. I'm gonna be all right. Doctors got me on some meds, not the good ones, but the ones that's gonna get me right, so I can't complain.
Right, that's what matters.
But I'm under a little bed rest restriction for a couple of days. But when I see you, your social media activities,
yeah,
I had to chime in.
Yeah, man. I watched that interview, and I wasn't going to watch it, but I kept seeing people making various comments about it. And, let me check it out. I think a bunch of people did the same thing that I did. Let's see what it is. And I cannot tell you how truly offended I was with the things that was coming out of this guy's mouth. And even the things that actually made sense were so distorted by where it was coming from with him. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And it just, I was bothered, to say the least. I was bothered by it. And, you know, what really made me want to have this talk tonight, have this conversation, was that I kept seeing people on social media reposting this interview or making comments to the effect of, man, Dame is a great businessman, and, you know, everybody needs to be listening to this guy, and, you know, he just made so many great points, and, you know, it's you know, holding him up as this great business person. And the question I asked myself was, what has he done since the Rocafella days for anyone to say that he has great business acumen, that he's a good businessman? Where's the proof of that? Because when I look at it, all I see is a situation that was going well that he managed to screw up, and a bunch of failed businesses that, you know, either no longer exist anymore or exist in some sort of constant state of failure.
Hey.
So, you know, since you've met the man, you've done business with the guy, I'm glad that you're, you know, willing to, you know, have this discussion with us, and maybe you can help us understand so that we can all figure out, is Dame Dash the businessman that he'd like us to believe he is? Or is this smoke and mirrors?
Exactly.
So, you know, let's start by, you know, I want you to start off by talking about how it was that you came to have a business relationship with Dame Dash, and, you know, how that all came to be and what exactly it was that you were doing for those guys.
Okay, no problem. Well, in 2004, I was approached by a pretty well-to-do venture capital firm that specializes in the dissolving of partnerships, LLCs. They basically do, if you are familiar with T. Boone Pickens, they do what he does. They go in and they buy companies, and then they sell off the pieces and make a profit.
Okay.
And this particular firm had zero experience in dealing with an entertainment entity of the size of the Rocafella empire. And so they hired me and my business partner to basically educate them on what they were looking to purchase.
Okay.
And through that process, it took about a 6-month window where we were doing due diligence on all of the Rocafella holdings. So this went from everything from Rocafella Records to Rockaware to State Property to the Rock Box, the Croquets, Armadale, all the things that were being thrown around as, let's say, Dame and J properties, okay? And the first thing that stood out to me was that from an equity standpoint, Damon Dash was not the majority equity position holder in any of these business entities.
Wait a minute. I want you to repeat that, please.
Damon Dash, at no point in any time, was a majority equity owner in any of the entities that he was publicly claiming.
So whether you're talking about Rocafella Records, whether you're talking about State Property, Armadale Vodka, none of that stuff that he was repping at the time as his own, that he was claiming was his business.
Right. And if you go back to 2004 and you look at what 2004, 2005, what he was claiming that he was worth was, I believe the number was $350 million. Well, there may have been $350 million worth of business, but let's just say at best he was only a 2% stakeholder in all of that. Okay?
Wow.
So that means that what he was a glorified pitchman. Period.
Yeah, I mean,
he wasn't some entrepreneur who had taken the money that he had made through Rocafella Records or Rockaware, which were the two big money winners at the time. Remember, Rockaware was doing $250 million a year billing at this time.
Right. Right.
Okay? But that Rockaware winter was funded by, let's say, some Russian mobsters.
Okay. Wow.
Okay, let's just call it what it is. I don't got no problem because I saw the paperwork.
Wow. Okay.
Okay. So that venture was owned by Korean manufacturers who manufactured the clothes, and the money to manufacture the clothes was given to him by some Russians, and then he was basically, I would call it a licensing deal.
Okay. Okay.
So still, it's a good deal if you ain't never made no money. But if you're someone who's supposed to have $250 million, nobody is supposed to be giving you money in return for your concepts like that. Not at the tune of 90% of the equity in that brand.
Right. Right.
Okay, so that's what we were dealing with, and this is at a time when everybody's perception of him was very, very large, and he was feeding people this line of thinking, hook, line, and sinker, and people were biting on it, and so he had, let's say, opportunities, but those opportunities were limited by his lack of cash.
Mm-hmm.
Okay? And so while this firm that we were working for, they were thinking that they were going to have to pay $300 or $400 million for this entity, or maybe even more. But when it was all said and done, the only money that was on the table was about $127 million, and this is for everything.
For all the businesses together.
All the businesses together. $127 million, of which, like I say, we're talking, 75 to 80% was going to go to Russians, Koreans, and Jay-Z. Okay? And understand what the real problem was, is the reason why he was so cash poor is because Rockefeller was in the process of being dissolved because Jay-Z, who was a one-third equity partner in Rockefeller, and supposedly everything else, had never taken a royalty payment for his first 8 albums at that point in time.
Wait a minute. Okay. So what you're saying is Jay-Z, during the time that he was a recording artist at Rocafella Records,
yes,
a label that he was 1/3 owner of,
yes,
he never took down royalty payments for the first 8 albums that he recorded.
yes. And I believe the number of units that had been sold at that point was around 24 million records.
Wow.
So you don't have to be a rocket scientist to figure out that if you end up having beef with someone behind a number in the amount of, let's say, $68 million, that your next move would be to exercise your right to come to you by the business entity.
Hold on, I want you to repeat that because you were breaking up just a little bit.
Okay. The number that was in question was a $68 million number.
So we're talking about Jay-Z was owed somewhere in the range of $68 million.
Yes.
And again, this was at the time when Rockefeller was dissolving, they were breaking up, they were splitting up.
Yes.
Okay.
And so in order for everything to be equitable, Dane was going to have to come up with $68 million cash. And unfortunately, between him and Big, they were unable to do so.
Wow.
So in order to resolve the debt, because remember, Rocafella was distributed by Def Jam / Universal Music Group. And so when Jay decided to audit everybody about his money, it became clear that Universal Music Group was not going to allow a $68 million check to go out at one time to Jay-Z. And so they moved into what I would call a crisis management situation and began to negotiate behind the scenes with Jay about how to resolve this $68 million issue. And this is where the business side of what people thought about Damon Dash began to crumble.
Mm-hmm.
Because if you got $350 million, yeah, $68 million is a nice piece of change, but you can suck it up and take it on the neck.
Right.
But he couldn't do that because he didn't own anything. And at the end of the day, when the dissolving of Rocafella was complete, he walked away with, let's say, $30 million, but he had $40 million in tax bills.
Wow.
So he went from being a $350 million man in his own mind to being a man who in real life owed $40 million and only had $30 to pay it.
Oh, Jesus Christ.
Yeah.
Wow.
So let's just frame all of this talk that he's talking about right now about whatever. He's always been working for somebody else. Never once has he been this quote-unquote entrepreneurial superstar who bootstraps up things out of his own pocket and makes his own executive decisions. He's never been that guy. So to use this Tony Robbins approach where he's trying to tell people what they're supposed to do with their business and their livelihoods and their content or their material or their products, I mean, sure, anybody can say those things, but if you don't really have the background or the track record of actually following your own advice, how much are you really supposed to take that man at his word?
Right. Right. And that's my whole thing. That's my whole thing. It's I don't understand how someone can be as holishly confident in you know, as far as them talking about business and, you know, what somebody else is crazy to do and this whole being a boss thing and, you know, and then you hear this, you hear the real story behind what was going on at that time.
Right.
And it's why would I ever listen? Why would I ever take advice from that guy?
Right.
Why?
Now, mind you, I want you to also understand this. That firm paid me a 5-digit sum to break all of his business dealings down. And they also paid for me to come up with a solution to help get him out of that situation. But, of course, because he didn't have the cash himself, he was unable to move or unwilling to move on it. He certainly had the credit. The dude had a black card.
Right.
I saw it. Yeah, I saw him charge up $500,000 worth of jewelry on it. But at the end of the day, a lot of people have good business credit. And it's easy to have good business credit when you have been handling Jay-Z's business, because that's really what it ended up being about.
Right.
You can get good business credit when you're dealing with hundreds of millions of dollars of transactions on behalf of somebody else. So if anybody wants to talk about, well, what's a genius move, it was a genius move for Jay-Z to box him out the way he did with leave him with nothing.
Wow.
It certainly wasn't Damon Dash was not the genius in any of that. So he walked away from that situation in the hole, and he hasn't gotten out of the hole in 11 years. And so now he's trying to engage in what I like to call revisionist history.
Right.
Now that it's 10 years later, and he thinks that the people who know the truth are not going to either come out and put him on blast about it, or that maybe they're not in a position to put the message out there that maybe you should take a different level of consideration when you listen to this man's words. But I'm here to let you know I'm that guy. And I got the paperwork to prove it.
Oh, wow.
Oh, yeah.
Wow.
I got that.
So
people can say whatever they want to say about K-Dub and this and K-Dub that, but guess what? I had a 7-year run in New York City handling major business for people that are much bigger than Damon Dash.
Right.
So it don't really mean nothing to me because at the end of the day, people still call me to handle that same business every day. Doesn't matter to me. I don't care what he thinks about me. It was never about him liking me. I was brought in to try to help save his business.
So let me go back a little bit since you mentioned that. They brought you in, not only for you to find out what was what,
right,
but for you to present him with something that could help push him forward, right, in terms of his whole. Because at that time he was starting the Damon Dash music group,
right.
So instead of going with the program that you guys set up for him that would have pushed him forward,
right,
he could have took out his black card and did that.
Right.
That was something that would have put him on the path to some sustained success on the music side of the industry. He took that same black card and went and bought $500,000 worth of jewelry. Is that what you're telling me?
Absolutely. And told me in my face. This was his exact response when I finished turning all the information into him. Like, look, bro, here's how we can handle your shit. We can have you straight in probably 6 months. Beanie Siegel's getting ready to get out of jail. You got the hottest reggae cat in the game, Sizzler. You got Joel Santana. You still got some things to work with. It ain't Jay-Z, but you could still be getting money. And his exact words to me in my face were, who the fuck's going to pay for this, son? You think I'm going to pay me? What kind of asshole you think I am?
What?
Those were his exact words to me.
Oh, man. Bruh. Come on, man. Wow.
And I just looked at him, and I asked him, I said, well, wait a minute. So you mean to tell me that you own 11 different companies? What I presented to him, let's say, was going to cost him $400,000. And I suggested to him, I said, if you own 11 companies, why don't you pull $40,000 from each of your company's marketing budgets and just pay for it and go make you $4 million? Because you have the leverage to be able to do that in, let's say, a 6-month period. $4 million might not seem like a lot, but it seems like maybe right now you could use $4 million.
Right.
And he told me, straight up, nah, son, I'm not doing that. Other people pay me. I can't believe these motherfuckers paid you. Oh, well, that obviously it didn't. What you thought about them paying me had zero to do with them writing me a check.
Right, right.
The people who were keeping you afloat brought me on board to help fix your shit, and you chose to go another direction. And so I never held that person against them. People make bad decisions every day of the week. It just so happens that he has a track record of making a lot more bad decisions than he does of making good ones.
That's, and I don't think you need to be a rocket scientist to look at it and see that. I think that's fairly clear.
Right.
Whether you're talking, just look at the stuff that he did during that time and after that period. Rocafella, he blew that up. Pro Kids, he went and got in on the Pro Kids thing, supposedly bought that brand, and what happened with that? Absolutely nothing. He started up another label, the whole Black Rock thing. What happened with that? Absolutely nothing. Ultimate Hustler. You know, the TV show that he had that was like some sort of reality contest.
Mm-hmm.
Nothing.
Which, now let me also just throw this out there. The Ultimate Hustler concept, he actually, I'll just say he took liberty from some of the things that I shared with him to go get that deal done.
Wow.
That's a whole nother story.
Wow.
Oh yeah, no, he has a track record of making some questionable decisions.
Y'all don't know, we're talking to K-Dub, my co-host here at The Groove, Keith Watson, and we're basically talking about his time in New York when he was working with Damon Dash and Jay-Z, and he actually helped to negotiate the split between Jay and Dame, and we're kind of diving into that now. And the reason why I wanted to have this discussion was because Damon Dash has been doing these interviews recently, one in particular on The Breakfast Club, where he was pretty flagrant in a lot of the things that he was saying, and, just really, making points about how everybody should want to be a boss. But it wasn't just the points he was making, it was how he was saying it. He was really talking down to people. Well, you're not a real man if you want a boss, or just this craziness, man. It was a long list of things.
Right.
It was so much he said in that interview that I had a problem with. And the things that he was saying that made sense, because surely, yeah, of course, many people would love to be in a position where they're their own boss, they own their own business, they're doing their own thing. But everybody doesn't have the avenues and the resources that Dame Dash has had available to him since he was a kid.
Right.
You know what I mean? Everybody doesn't have those same resources. And
right.
I think it's unfair, and I think it's, I just think it's dead wrong for him to come out and talk to people that way and make it seem like you're less than a man or you're less than a person because you're holding down a 9-to-5 and somebody is cutting you a check.
Right.
So
let's just put it like this. It's not a reach to say that he is a patently rude and disrespectful man. And it's the rude and disrespectful nature about how he went about taking care of his business that has put him in the position he's in today, which is not a good one. No matter what anybody out there wants to say, yeah, it's cool that he has a name or whatever, but when you look at what he's known for, and then you combine that with how he expresses himself, it's not something that should endear people to him or endear to people to his line of thinking, because he's an asshole.
Right.
And people want to say, well, it's okay to be an asshole if you make... No, it's not. And people who carry themselves and conduct business the way that he has end up in situations like he's in now, where all he can do is run his mouth and try to gain more attention and try to point the finger at everybody else except himself, and then actually have people applaud him for poor business tactics and poor behavior, poor communication.
Right.
And somehow manage to ignore all of that to say, well, yeah, he may be all those things, but he said this is good.
Right.
No, see, I'm sorry, it doesn't work like that.
See, that's what blows my mind. What blows my mind is that people nowadays, for some reason or another, seem to think everything is okay if that person has money. Well, he made a bunch of money. He's a millionaire, so he must have done something right, or that's proof that he's a solid businessman. Is it? Is it proof?
Really? Ask Koolaid. Everybody remembers Enron. Enron made billions. But did that make Koolaid a good businessman? When his choices led to the dissolution of a humongous energy conglomerate plus a big six accounting firm?
Right. Right.
People don't remember how much. It don't matter that when he gets out of jail that he's got some money. It don't matter because he's toxic. Because he made bad decisions.
Right.
Damon Dash is toxic because he makes bad decisions. If he was a genius the way that he thinks he is, his former partner wouldn't let an opportunity to make some money pass him. He wouldn't have to go beg Kanye for a couple of million to put a movie together.
Right. 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 And let's remind people that this guy who is really fronting like he's doing so well is heavily in debt.
Heavily.
I mean heavy debt. Millions. That he can't pay for.
We don't know how far in the hole he really is because, like I say, he cut some deals with some pretty cutthroat people.
Yeah. Wow.
And I'm pretty sure that whatever money he's got coming in is being taxed heavily in one way or the other. And so, yeah, maybe it's nice to get a couple of pennies if you're able to generate $1 million. But I don't see how that's possible. When it's right there. If you go look up, the only thing he got out of the split were the Masters of the Reasonable Doubt and his split on the Paid in Full movie.
Wow.
So how much money is he making off of that? Gee, I'm sure he's not making nothing on those things, but I'm pretty sure that whatever's coming in is going right out.
Right. Right. And it's I don't know, man. The dude he's walking hypocrisy.
Right.
Like in that same interview, he was talking about, how, and it's funny how he always says these things that just so happen to help his argument or to keep people away from a certain topic that concerns him. But He got on this thing about, guys that talk about other people or, that's female stuff. That's such and such and such and such. If you're gossiping and da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da. And then goes on to talk about how he's pissed off at Spike Lee because he wanted Spike Lee to invest his time and money in some project that he was trying to do. But Spike Lee declined it. And to this person that they both know in common, Spike Lee basically told that person, I don't really like that guy, so I'm not going to work with him.
Right.
Now, that was said in private. That was not anything that was said publicly. You never heard that before Damon Dash mentioned that.
Right.
So here he gets out, he calls out Spike Lee publicly because Spike Lee in private turned down a deal with him and privately said that he didn't really like the guy. And then in the same sentences, he's saying, but we should be united. I want to know why Spike Lee doesn't want to work with me. We should be united. That's what's wrong with black people. It's like, dude, are you serious? Are you kidding me right now? Really?
Yeah. But that ego. That ego is a monster.
It's a monster. It's a monster. And it's easy to say stuff like, well, you don't want guys are wrong or people are wrong for talking about gossip type stuff. But yeah, I understand why you feel that way because you don't want anybody to have the conversation that we're having.
At all.
In terms of what your finances really are, what really happened with the Rocafella breakup, what you really got out of that, why that really went down, and how Jay-Z came out smelling like a rose.
Exactly. And all of that can be traced back to his poor business acumen.
Right.
Combine poor business acumen with a shitty attitude, and you get where he's at today, which is not where he wants to be.
Exactly. So my whole point is to those people out there who've been constantly reposting this Dame Dash interview and holding it up as something that everyone should aspire to. My whole thing is really go look at what Dame Dash has done and judge him on that. Judge him on what he's done in business.
Right.
And if we're at the point in society where for me to respect you, it's because you've made some money, not how you made your money. I'm not going to look at how you made your money or what you did with the money you made. I'm just supposed to respect you because you've got $1 million maybe.
Right.
When the hell did that happen? What new phenomenon is this? Where that's where you're supposed to get respect because you've got money.
Right.
I'm supposed to listen to you because you acquired this money. I'm not supposed to pay attention to how you got it, whether or not you got it in any sort of reasonable way or whatever, or what did you do with your money? Did you do anything good with it? I'm not supposed to pay attention to all of that. Just the fact that you have it, I'm supposed to respect the shit out of you for that.
Yep. That's the Jedi mind trick.
It's insane. It's insane. So I don't understand a lot of the groupthink that's going on right now on social media. And that's why today I just posted one question, which was, what has Dame Dash done to make you think that he's a good, or even not even just good, solid, that he's a solid businessman?
Nothing. And I looked, and I posted on that thread, and when I looked at everybody's response to your question, everything that everybody was claiming as a victory for Dame Dash was not a victory for him over a 10% margin, let's say. Mm. He did good business for some Russians and some good business for some Koreans and some Jewish folks in New York City. And they made a bunch of money, but there's nothing unique about that. And if he even did those things in a solid manner, he wouldn't be in the situation he's in right now. He would have been able to move over to some other opportunities because he did solid business. But now he's been reduced to posting these social media interviews with people that he used to work with that will actually still let him in the house.
Right.
You can pay $5,000 a month to a good PR firm and get on the Breakfast Club, and you can get on different television shows and
Sway in the Morning, and
you can pay for that to happen. It doesn't cost a lot of money.
Right. Right.
I'm sure he's got $5,000. I'm not saying he's walking around with no cash in his pocket.
Right.
But let's call it what it is. It's smoke and mirrors, however you want to slice it up.
Yeah.
There's nothing legitimate about the positions that he is espousing as gospel.
Right. And which was my whole point. I just wanted for people to see past that bluster and that arrogance and that bullshit and actually take a look at a critical look. What has he really done? Why are you listening to this guy? Why are you listening to this guy? And let's recap a couple of the things that have come out during our conversation, which is back to the split of Rocafella. Basically, you said tonight that when everything was all said and done, when you guys went in there, you guys were hired to come in, figure out what's what. And in the end, Jay-Z had not taken a royalty payment for the first 8 albums that he recorded under Rocafella.
Right.
he was owed somewhere in the area of $68 million.
Yeah.
Dame Dash, who should have been able to pay Jay-Z's royalties, was unable to do so. And this is part of the reason of why Dame Dash was in a financial hole. And it's also a part of the reason why Jay-Z ended up becoming the president of Def Jam. Would that be fair?
Yes.
Okay.
That's how basically in the settlement, Jay-Z got everything except for the masters to Reasonable Doubt. Period.
And again, and also what you were able to discover was that out of all these different companies and different entities that Dame Dash was claiming he was owner of, turns out he didn't really own anything. Would that be fair?
That would be fair to say. Let's say in none of those entities did he own more than 20% of any of those entities, and they were performance-based equity positions, not cash-based equity positions.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. This is period. This is a fact. And people can go do the research and go look up the splits. It's all out there on the internet to be found if you really want to look up the truth.
Wow.
It's out there. Which is why I'm kind of surprised that he, even 10 years later, is still sticking to this whole, I'm the biggest boss type of deal when it's clear that he wasn't.
Right. Right. Well, that's the amazing part, how, at this point he's espousing, you're not a boss if you're not putting your own money up. You're not a boss if you're not doing this, and this, and this. And again, when you look at his track record, it's like, what are you talking about?
Right.
It doesn't add up. So I posed that question on social media today because I wanted people to think about that. I wanted them to go just past what they've been hearing him say.
Right.
And actually take a critical look at what he's done. Because again, any dude that comes out and basically talks down on people for holding down a job, holding down a 9-to-5, for not being their own boss, which again, this is something that most people aspire to. It wasn't like he was actually breaking new ground.
Right.
With many of the things that he was suggesting. But it was just the asshole-ish nature in which he said it.
Right.
And it rubbed me wrong, and it rubbed a whole lot of people wrong. Especially if you have a clue about his past history.
Exactly.
It's like, man, it's amazing that he has the balls to do that.
Right. And the truth is that I don't feel good having to come out and speak on what the truth is. I shouldn't be in a position where I have to be like, dude, you're lying. Stop it.
Right.
But here we are. At some point, the bullshit has to cease. And people can say whatever they want to say about whatever they, people make choices every day about what they want to believe in. And if people want to believe and use his expressions as some form of motivation to go out and be a better person or a better business person, then by all means go do you. But just understand that you're believing in something that has no substance to it.
Right. And that's all I'm really saying. I don't want to take away all the man's whatever deserved credit he should get. The part that he played in Rocafella, the part he played and helping Jay-Z.
And that asshole, if people get a chance, I don't know if the movie is on Netflix or not, but they actually made a movie called Death of a Dynasty. And there's a lot of truth in that movie about what happened to Rocafella.
Right. Okay.
And it stars them, which is even more funny. But the truth is that that same asshole behavior that helped him devo and get a better position for Rocafella is the same thing that got him put out of position.
Yeah.
So for every good decision he made, he probably made 10 bad ones, and it finally came home to roost because his arrogance and his belief in himself to be this Superman of a business person finally fell off the shelf and hit him in the head. It came to roost, and now he's paying the price for it 10 years later. He still can't come back from making a $68 million mistake.
Right. Wow. It's again, my only goal was really to make the point to people, look a little deeper before you decide to hold certain people up in this high regard.
Right.
And the person that they're trying to hold up is an asshole of such grand magnitude. And he shows it in every interview. And I've always had an issue with just, his philosophy in terms of, why he would mess with people. Like he admitted in that interview on the Breakfast Club that, I think Envy was the one that mentioned how he used to go in on people for various reasons. No, I went in on people because you wore wax shoes or because you didn't have the latest such and such and such and such. And it's like, really?
Right.
That's a reason to go in on people?
Yep.
These same people that are working for you and making you money? Or the stories that you heard from people like Just Blaze,
Yep.
And how Dame would like get in his face and try to push him to something, and just this craziness, man, this weird, strange, almost Napoleonic attitude that he had.
Yeah, that's what happens when, in reality, you wish you had talent.
Damn.
That's what it is. He wishes he was Kanye. He wishes he was Jay-Z, so he wouldn't have to be representing them. But by mind, he don't know how to make no beats. He don't know how to write no rap.
Right.
None of that. He was lucky to have Jay-Z as a friend.
Right.
That's what he was good at. He was lucky that Jay-Z saw something in him that he felt like he could count on him to handle the business.
Right. And which is another point that I make to people. If he was half the businessman that people would like to say he was, and he knew the music industry as well as people would like to think he did, then why, after Rocafella folded, has he not had any other success in the music industry? In terms of maybe finding a hot new artist and blowing them up, restarting another label and doing that. Well, guess what? He restarted a couple of labels. He had Damon Dash Music Group.
Yep.
He tried the whole Black Rock thing. It all failed.
Yep.
It all failed. Why did it fail? For a lot of different reasons. But I'm sure some of those reasons are the fact that he had burned so many of his industry bridges that there was a whole lot that he couldn't get done because people didn't fuck with him anymore. Whether that's programmers at radio, whether that's promotional people that he probably had relationships with back from the Def Jam Rocafella days. It's a large swath of area of people in the industry who basically made up their minds that they weren't dealing with that guy anymore because they didn't have to.
Exactly.
He wasn't being forced down their throats. They didn't have to deal with him. So why would I deal with you if I don't have to? And
Right.
you don't really have the money to pay me what I'm going to charge you, what I think is worth to have to deal with your funky ass. So he don't even have that option.
No.
You know, so it's again, man, I just wanted to address this so that people have a clear understanding about who it is that they're holding up in this high regard. You know, people were holding him up as this great businessman, and my question was, is he really? Is he really a great businessman? Or is he just making you think he's a great businessman? And what you're really feeling for him is affection from that Rocafella era that has more to do with Jay-Z than it has to do with Dame.
Exactly.
So,
yeah, I mean, that's pretty much it in a nutshell. I think, you know, people sometimes they want to take that perception is reality thing too far.
yeah.
And this is one of those cases.
Hey, too much Sam Rothstein.
Hey. Hey. Okay.
Say, man. K-Dub. Say, man, we Keith, we really appreciate it, man.
Hey, man, I appreciate y'all. You know, if I wasn't under the weather, I would have been in there. We would have been going in the same way. So,
I know it.
you know, I appreciate y'all and appreciate you.
Well, yo, man, just, you know, follow your doctor's orders, man. Get well soon. You know what I'm saying?
I'll be back next week. And you know that.
Back in the building with that Frenchies.
You already know.
Hold up, man. K-Dub, we appreciate you, bro.
Already, family. Y'all take it easy.
For sure. And just like that.